That's my official title with Global Evangelism Incorporated, which is Cornerstone Church, Cornerstone Christian Schools, Tarpley Retreat Center, La Fonda Ranch, Sanctuary of Hope, Christians United for Israel. Covers a lot of areas. I'll go into the PowerPoint, but one thing I wanted to touch on, Eric said about the events that are going on. Church was bombed in Beaumont last night. Package bomb was put on the front door while it was closed and caused some damage. They found it when they got in this morning. So it's not all over the news. Nobody got hurt, thank goodness. But yeah, just last night, little town of Beaumont, not too little, but yeah, church was bombed last night. So, and of course you have all the events that are going on in Israel right now. And in fact, that's where Pastor Hagee is. He's in Israel right now with Christians United for Israel because they're moving the embassy, if y'all follow it, moving the embassy to Jerusalem Monday, I believe. So he's there for the dedication of the new embassy. So, all the events that are going on over there, the Iran's throwing rockets over into Israel through the Golan Heights, through Syria. Now Israel's returning fire. So, it just continues. Coming together for the protection of our church members and visitors. I held a summit at Cornerstone Church in November after the Sutherland Springs incident. When I first got to Cornerstone, I wanted to bring a bunch of churches together, but Cornerstone keeps me very busy and it never happened. Well, the night of the Sutherland Springs shooting, I looked at my wife. We were sitting at home and I was like, all right, well, now it's time to do something. Pastor Hagee, great man, all these visions. He's had armed security at Cornerstone for many, many years. He's been shot at on the pulpit. He's had bombs sent to him. So he's seen the need for security. So he's had it for a long time. A lot of churches never even thought about it. But we'll get into it. Introduction. Name's Robert Allen Ross. 30 years in law enforcement as of last month. I'm still a peace officer. I'm a corporal with a local jurisdiction here in town. Last 21 years was with the City of San Antonio Police Department. I retired from the city as a senior crime scene investigator. That was my title. I was with the crime scene unit. I retired on the 30th of April and took over the directorship at Cornerstone on May 1st. So I just transitioned from one job to another. I had been with Cornerstone since about 2001. I've been what was called on his executive detail. I was one of the guys in the suits that stood up by the stage. I traveled with him. I've been to Israel, London, all over the United States with that man, protecting him, helping set up security. AIC shift lead for Cornerstone Executive Security Team from about 2012 to 2016. AIC is agent in charge. Agent in charge is you're the person that controls the principal. Whoever you're protecting, the shift lead is the person that controls the team that is protecting the principal. And then became Cornerstone Security Director May 1st. The person that had my job just moved over to another job within the organization. He did a great job setting things up, and I'm just trying to continue that momentum. Executive protection these are just slides. When I talk, I don't want you to just think I'm some guy that does church security. I want you to know that I've actually done church security for many years. I've helped set it up. I've helped set up in Washington, D.C. Of course, Cornerstone has a lot of dignitaries come in, so I've helped set up security for them. Big events like in Louisville, Washington, D.C., London, Israel. I helped set up security in 2016 for those events. Two passions for the last 20 years, crime scene investigation and protecting Pastor Hagee and his family. Now it's gotten a little bit bigger because now I protect the whole community of Cornerstone Church. Cornerstone Church has about 700 employees, 1,100 students, and many, many properties. Cornerstone Church, Christian schools, if y'all know about our school, it's on 1604 outside on Northwest Military. K4 through 12 school, beautiful school, just opened up this past year. Second part opens up this coming year. Tarpley Retreat Center, La Fonda Ranch, Sanctuary of Hope. Sanctuary of Hope is out at Imbo Verde. And what it is, if y'all haven't heard, it's a place for unwed mothers. It's an alternative to abortion. Unwed mothers that don't have nowhere to go, families kicking them out of the house, baby's daddy doesn't want anything to do with her, whatever. They have a place to go now. They go out to Sanctuary of Hope, and we take care of them. They have their baby, and then we just don't kick them out. They can stay there with their baby now. Big vision of Pastor Hagee's. What we're going to talk about real quick, I'm going to fly through this PowerPoint so we get into Q&A. Security concerns during Sunday services. That's the main thing. Right now, the hot topic is the active shooter. What do we do if a shooter comes into the sanctuary on a Sunday? But, there's all kinds of other things that go wrong on a Sunday too, and we'll talk about them. Soft target versus hard target. Military guys in here, y'all know what I'm talking about. Soft target, movie theaters, churches, malls, any place that hasn't done any kind of preparation to deter the criminal element, especially a shooter. Emergency procedures, you got to have emergency procedures written down so everybody knows what you're doing. Security concerns throughout the week, you got to train. And then sharing intel between places of worship regarding security. And I believe you're on that, right? Yes. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Objectives. Keeping our members and visitors safe in our places of worship. Sharing concerns, ideas, and intel regarding security in order to accomplish objective number 1 to the best of our ability. Creating a means of sharing this information between places of worship throughout the year. Making this summit an annual event. So while I was talking about that summit that I did in November last year, got about 55 churches together. They're on our property, and we talked about how are we going to make our places a hard target so that these knuckleheads don't accomplish what they want to accomplish. Again, Cornerstone's done it for many years, and I can promise you that because of the work that Pastor Hagee put in, the foresight that he had to protect his congregation, we have avoided protest and disruptions for our service. If y'all know Pastor Hagee, he's out there. Cornerstone is out there because he's out there, because of his views. So, we have had a couple of protests in the last, let's see, since I've been there, one good protest, but we were able to shut it down pretty quick. But because of the way we have security, we have uniformed security outside and we have plainclothes inside, but the people know who those plainclothes officers are. When, even visitors, when they're sitting in our pews, they know who they are because they stand right out there on the stage. So it gets these guys to think twice. If they're coming in scoping out our place, thinking that they're going to do something, these guys are cowards. These guys that do these acts are cowards. They don't want to run into any resistance. They want to be able to, stand up and yell and maybe be escorted out or, in the worst case scenario, shoot a couple of people and be able to run off and into the sunset or whatever their mindset is. But when they see all these police officers, they're going to think twice. Okay, well, if I pull a gun in here, I'm not going to do much damage, and I'm going to be done. Or, if my idea is to come in here and disrupt the pastor in the service and holding up a sign for Palestinian rules or whatever, I'm going to be taken down pretty quick, and it's going to hurt. So Cornerstone's done that for a long time, and I'm trying to get other churches to see the need for that. Again, Cornerstone's a big church. I have a paid security team. Not all churches can do that, but you don't need money to be safe. So, we'll talk about that. Sunday service security concerns. My sanctuary holds about 4,300 people. If we put extra chairs, it gets up to about 4,500 people. So it's a pretty big auditorium, and when it gets full, even when it's a good night, praise and worship, the place gets rocking, and you get a little concerned with, okay, what's going to happen? Yes, everybody's in a good mood, but as we're going to talk about, all kinds of things can happen. Medical issues, especially with the older folks, and they're getting up, and we've had people stroke out, heart attacks, asthma, all kinds of different things. How do you handle those things during service while your pastor's up here trying to do his job? If it can happen, it will happen. Medical emergencies, severe weather, smell of smoke or actual smoke, fire, bomb threats, arguments, family disturbance, child custody issues, domestic violence. So this is what I'm talking about, not just the active shooter. I'm talking about anything and everything can happen in a service, and I've seen just about all of these. We've had smell of smoke in the sanctuary. And if you guys know Pastor Hagee, he's going to keep preaching. He ain't going to stop. If there's a protester, he ain't going to let that protester win. He's going to keep preaching. So, unless it's a dire emergency where we have to evacuate, that man is going to do his job. But anything can happen. And how do I combat that and make sure that these things don't disrupt? Well, I have procedures. And I have all the ushers. We have about 200 ushers. I have what's called a Safety Center app, and they all have it on their phone, and it has all the emergency procedures for what happens in the sanctuary if there is a medical emergency. Ushers don't have a big job, with the exception of if somebody's stroking out in the middle of this pew, I do have a medic that's on duty. He can't be fighting to try and get in there, so the ushers do have a job to get everybody else out of that pew and out of the way so that my guy can get in there and do the help needed for this person that's whatever's going on with them. And it happens just about every Sunday. We don't have to call EMS every Sunday, but at least once every Sunday, my paramedic is doing something. My EMT is doing something. High blood pressure, low blood pressure, stroke, during the summer, heat exhaustion, heat stroke, twisted ankles, just all kinds of things. So severe weather, what do you do if there's a tornado coming and it's about to hit the church? You got to have some kind of plan on what do you do with what's this place hold? 400? What do you do with the 400 people that are in here? You can't just, as a pastor, you can't just run off, and ushers can't run off. They're here. They're here, and you got to protect them. So you got to have, the old get away from the windows, get away from the back wall, huddle down into the pews, the old school stuff that we all learned, back in the 70s and 80s. Smell of smoke or actual smoke, Are you going to stop the service because you start smelling something burning? Like I said, no, we don't, and it's happened. Cornerstone's 30 years old, so yeah, from time to time, something doesn't catch fire, but there's an electrical short or something. So we don't panic. We have a team. We have a guy on maintenance. He's there. My security guys. They start looking to see what it is. They find it, give the all clear, and they continue on. Now, if the sanctuary starts filling with smoke, that's a different story. Okay, we do have a plan for that. 4,300 seats. It's divided up. And ushers are in charge of certain areas. They got a certain door to push people out. Same thing here. You don't necessarily just have to use those doors. You got a door up here, this section, out that door. This section over here, if that leads to the outside. So those are plans that you need to come up with. Fire, if there is actual fire, if it's something small in a trash can, fire extinguisher puts out. Again, you don't need to evacuate because there's a trash can fire in the back. If you're able to put it out, put it out. But if it gets worse, if it's something that you can't control, or if you got a a trash can fire over in one corner, and then all of a sudden you have another one over here. Well, now you're starting to look at, okay, well, somebody's intentionally doing this. Now you have to think, what are we going to do? Bomb threat, we've had bomb threats. We deal with them. We don't stop the service. Of course, you go through the protocol, try and get as much information from the person on the phone as possible, or, if it's a letter or whatever it is, you try and get as much information that you can. Try and get them to tell you when it's supposed to go off, where it's supposed to go off, where did they put it, what is it, C4, dynamite, nitroglycerin, whatever it may be, try and, so you have an idea of what you're looking for. And then when you're looking, look in the obvious places first, don't go in the pastor's office and start looking through pastor's office, because that's not a public place. Start looking in the public bathrooms, looking in the pews. At Cornerstone, we sweep the whole sanctuary before service even starts on Sunday, just in case somebody gets in there. They won't, but just in case. Arguments. Mr. and Miss Smith been coming to your service for 2 years, and now Mr. and Miss Smith are going through an ugly divorce, and Miss Smith starts dating Mr. Jones over here. How's Mr. Smith going to take it? So you have those issues. Child custody. If you have a daycare, mama drops off Junior into daycare, daddy doesn't have visitation for whatever, but now he shows up because he knows that this is where Junior is on a Sunday morning. How do you handle that? Do you have a procedure for that? And of course, domestic violence, it breaks out in the service. They came in angry, and now it's just continuing, and now next thing you know, they're slapping each other or whatever. Again, you got to get them out of the sanctuary so it doesn't disrupt what pastor's doing. And now the more serious, protesters. How do you handle protesters? Robbery, aggravated robbery, assault, aggravated assault, kidnapping, attack on pastor, and active shooter. So, like I said, you go from the easiest thing, medical emergency, all the way up to active shooter. Protesters. Again, if you got a protester, a smart protester is going to get right in the center of the pew. He's going to come in early to service. He's going to sit down, and that way it's harder to get him out. So that's the usher's job. Ushers come in, pull everybody else out, so now your security guy can get straight to them. You don't want to go hands-on with them. How can I say this? He's got a right to protest, but not on private property. All right, he's got a right to, in his mind, be heard. So you can't walk up to him and clock him or put him in a chokehold or something like that. You walk up to him and say, "Okay, guy, you've had your 5 seconds. It's time to leave. Come with me." Now, if he doesn't, you don't want to stand there and dance with him for 5 minutes either. Then you go slight hands-on. There's that force continuum that police officers use. Your command presence is the first thing. Just the uniform deters a lot. All right, if that doesn't work, then you got your verbal commands. If that doesn't work, you got your soft come-alongs. Arm bars and pinch points, things like that. And then, of course, it goes all the way up to deadly force. But, you walk up to them and you ask them to come out with you. At Cornerstone, when we had maybe 9 to 11 people pop up during service protesting on one Sunday. They all snuck in. Of course, we'll talk about that. You can't keep people from coming into service. They came into service, and then one person up on the balcony threw leaflets down. Okay, that was the beginning of the protest. We got them. And then as the service went on, a guy over here popped up and started, holding up a sign, yelling, "Well, we got him out, but what we're dealing with him, one over here did it, then one over there did it." So it taxed us, but pastor kept going. We kept doing our job. Most of them complied. Some of them got roughed up, not by my security. I wasn't in charge at that time. But guess who roughed them up? Congregation. Yeah, so, my whole time there at Cornerstone, I've always joked, when that protester stands up, our job is to protect him or her, because the congregation is going to go off on them. They don't want Pastor Hagee being interrupted. And sure enough, one lady jumped up on the pew, and one behind her grabbed her and yanked her down. And, it's like, you can't do that. And I was walking a guy out resisting just a little bit. I put him in a chicken wing. I was walking him out, and a protester stood up and went to hit him. And luckily I saw it coming. I moved him so he didn't make contact. If he did, what would I have had to do? Take the guy out, turn him over to our uniform guys, go back in and grab the congregant, pull him out now because that was an assault. So, those are things you got to be mindful of, the reaction of the congregation to the protester. Things that you don't think about. Aggravated robbery, what churches do every Sunday? Collect money. Sometimes it's a lot of cash. If you got somebody that knows where the money is being held or being counted, you got that problem. And then, of course, the gray-haired, blue-haired lady, whatever you want to call her, with the nice hat, walking out to her car on a Sunday after service and gets her purse snatched. So you got to be mindful of that. How do you protect your parking lots? I protect my parking lots by having crew out there. No, that wasn't at a church. I just saw a video. Yeah, it was at a church. It was at a church. I'm sorry. Lady was walking out to her car. A truck pulled up, motioned for her to come over. He was acting like he was asking directions somewhere. Reached over, grabbed her purse, and took off. Pulled her to the ground, broke her hand. Luckily, she didn't go underneath the truck. But, that just happened a week or two ago also. And they know who this guy is because he's in this little town where it happened, and they got his license plate. From what? From the security system, because it's a good security system that this church invested in. Kidnapping, really haven't heard of any instances. Maybe the kids, one Sunday at church, had somebody come in all panicky. Mideastern guy pulled up in a van and motioned over to two of our teenagers, and of course they kept walking, but somebody saw it and came and got one of my uniform officers, and we looked everywhere and we didn't find them. But again, I take it with a grain of salt. Yes, I want to believe that person, but what a coincidence. It was a Mideastern person, but they couldn't give me a good description of the van, but they saw the person in the van. So I took it with a grain of salt. We did our due diligence to try and find it, but, so, of course, Tack on Pastor. You could YouTube lots of videos out there of pastors getting attacked, getting punched. There's a great one where it's a big church. I can't tell you what it was, but pastor comes off the pulpit, stage, whatever you want to call it, and he's shaking hands, and if he had a good detail, they would have stopped it, because you could see this guy as the pastor's walking down shaking. There's a guy mirroring him as he's going down, and he's not trying to shake his hand, but that would have caught my attention right away, and I would have gotten on the radio. And the way we do it, somebody's behind pastor and somebody's behind the crowd, and we're moving with them. They didn't do this at that church. I would have snatched him up and got him out of there and find out what his problem was, but eventually he reached through the crowd and punched the pastor in the face. It didn't hurt the pastor, but it's embarrassing. Like I said, you can YouTube all kinds of stuff. There's one where Newt Gingrich is signing books, and a person comes up with a bag and pulls out like a cereal box and dumps a box of cereal on him at this book signing. Again, didn't hurt Newt Gingrich, but it was embarrassing. And again, it wouldn't have happened at my church because we would have had a guy with pastor and a guy on the other side. And as soon as he started digging in his bag, it would have been like, what are you doing type thing. But things like that happen. Like I said, YouTube, some of them funny. The Pope. There is one where Pope is walking down the aisle, and a guy comes over the rope, and one of his executive guys reacted super quick. And it was great. But what would happen did happen. He tackles the bad guy right as the guy grabs a hold of the Pope. What happens? Pope goes down too because he didn't break that hold. So you got to know how to do these things. You don't tackle the bad guy. You go for his hand just in case he does get to the pastor or the pope or whoever it is, and you break that hold before you take him to the ground. And then, of course, active shooter. We'll watch a video in a minute about active shooter. How do we handle the different situations that arise? This is how I handle them. Like I said, I have a trained EMT on staff. I am on an email list with the National Weather Service. So whenever there is severe weather in the area, I get an email from the National Weather Service, and I pass that on to my executives, CFO, CIO, CEO, all those important people now. They could pass it on to their people, whether it's severe heat, of course, bad weather, tornado. I just got some last week for the weather that was coming through. There's a maintenance person that's one of our guys. He's there at the church at all times during service. Cornerstone Security is a licensed security company through the DPS, Department of Public Safety, Private Security Board with 21 commissioned security officers. So that's what I'm talking about. Cornerstone Church has its own security department. So I have 24-hour officers on not all my properties, at the school and at the church. Of course, during the day I have more officers. At night there's only one officer, on the property. But again, that's why I'm saying, the bomb that was left at that church in Beaumont, that's not going to happen at Cornerstone because I got security there all the time. Most churches can't do that. They just can't because of the money. But again, you don't have to have money to be safe. So, on Sunday morning, when you guys get here, you assign somebody to walk around the outside of the building to make sure that there's not a package on the doorstep or somebody snuck in here and did something in here. Your volunteers, I understand that, but you got to take your job serious, and you're assigned to protect the other people that are in this church. I also have, of course, on Sunday, I have, let's just say 5,000 people on the church property. So I have contract police officers that I deal with. So because of security reasons, yes, I trust all y'all, but I just don't give out those numbers because, yes, one day I might slip because I'm giving them out to other people. I don't want to give them out to people that I shouldn't. I don't give out the numbers, but, I have a certain amount of SAPD officers that are on my property. They're strategically assigned. I have my security guys. As most of y'all know, there is a difference between security and police. Police, if I'm a police officer and you say, hey, that guy over there just took some money, as a police officer, I could go over there and snatch him up and do my investigation and find out what happened. As a security officer, you have to witness the theft, or you have to witness the criminal mischief, so there is a difference. Security can make an arrest, but they have to witness it. So on Sunday, I have officers with my kids. I have officers with my money. I have police officers strategically placed, and they're in uniform. Again, the first deterrent is command presence. So, they're in full uniform. They have their work permits, and that's what they do. They protect my property on Sunday morning. And other large events. We have our Feast of Tabernacles. It's a 3-day event. I have police officers. And then I have officers for other things. Most of the time it's my security, but then I also have my police officers. Executive detail, that's the guys that are inside. I don't want uniformed guys inside the sanctuary because I don't want it to be a distraction, have a uniform standing over there. Now, if there is a threat, that's different. I do move uniform inside the sanctuary, but I have plainclothes guys, they're police officers, and they're obvious, again, command presence. They're not in uniform, but they're mic'd up, and everybody knows who they are. Because, as I say, a core group, if y'all know about police, they work side jobs all the time. That's how they make their money. Police don't make a lot of money working for the city, so they have to make money working side jobs. But I don't want Tom working this door this week, and then Dick working it, and then Jane, and then Stanley, and then, no, I have the same Stanley working that door just about every Sunday. He's a contractor, but he's been there for years, and he's vested in my church. He knows the congregants know him. So when that guy that does walk through the door, that's not a normal guy, he's alerted. I've never seen that guy before. Now, does he walk up and introduce himself? No, because now that takes him away from his job of security. He's going to hit the greeter next to him. Hey, I've never seen that guy before. Now it's the greeter's job to go over there. Hey, how you doing? I'm Rob. Haven't seen you here before. And start getting a feel for this guy, you know. He could be just a visitor. Y'all are close to downtown, so y'all probably get a lot of visitors. Cornerstone gets a ton of visitors because they're on TV and just because of Pastor Hagee. So we don't stop every Tom, Dick, and Harry that walks through our door that we haven't seen before unless they look weird. If they walk through the door with a prayer shawl over their head, they're going to get talked to. If they're walking in with the Israeli flag draped over their shoulders, they're going to get stopped and talked to. You know, if they walk in with a backpack, they're going to get stopped. Hey, you know, in order to come into our property, you got to let me look in your bag. Well, you're not going to look in my bag. Well, then you're not coming on our property. It's that simple. It's private property. You don't come in. Don't want to argue with you. Don't want to make a scene, but, well, I'll go out and take it to my car. He gave you a hard time. Is he going to go back to his car and take out whatever he had in the backpack and bring it in on his person now? You know, that's a case-by-case basis what you're going to do at that point. If he is giving the greeter a hard time, motion over to the uniform officer, again, command presence. As soon as that uniform officer walks up, most of the time it's, oh, okay, yeah, I just wondering why you want to look in my bag. Well, I told you, it's for security. You know, it just depends. You know, you got to take it back to your car. You know, it's up to you at that point whether you let him back in or not. Most of the time we do, but there's been a couple of times where he's given the greeter such a hard time, it's like, you know what? Yes, we're at church, but you're not welcome here. You know, I got to protect the other 4,300 people that are in my sanctuary, and I don't know what this knucklehead's going to do. So, you know, and, you know, we have homeless people that show up, you know, took a taxi from Haven for Hope, and now they're trying to come through the door with 2 suitcases that's their worldly possessions. Okay, again, we're a church. You got to be open to them, but what are you going to do? I'm not going to let that person possibly go down to the front row with their suitcases and then during service start digging through because they're not, you know, I'm not saying all homeless people are, but, you know, maybe this person's not stable and they're just not thinking. Now they're starting to look for their chapstick and they're pulling out their pots and pans and making all kinds of racket, you know, sitting in the pew. So I'm not going to allow that. I'm also not going to, okay, I'll take possession of your bag so you could go in, because now after service, now they're digging through their bag and, hey, where's my $10,000 that was in here? So now you just put yourself in a bind by taking their possessions and holding them. So, you know, that's you know, we've turned several people away, man, you know, and I feel bad, you know. They took a taxi or whatever to come to church. Dude, I cannot let you in here with those bags, and I'm not taking possession of them. I've had this. Well, how about if I just go over there and stick them in that bush? No, that's not going to happen. You know, now if you go off my property and you come back without those bags, that's fine. I don't know what you did with your bags, but they're not on my property. So, you know, again, now I'm not telling them to do that because they go back and their bags are gone. Oh, well, Robert over there with Cornerstone said I should do that, and now I'm liable for his bags. So, you know, it's just one of those tricky things. We've had, during the service, a guy walk in with a telescoping pole, and I'll stand stage, and he's over at door 1, and he starts doing this telescoping pole like to trim trees, and it's got an Israeli flag on. I'm like, holy cow. You know, I mean, it's with pastor preaching, so I'm on the radio, man, somebody get this guy before he takes a step towards us, and luckily, you know, uniform got him and took him out. You know, guy wasn't there to cause any problems. He just wanted to show his support for Israel. Again, you know, I can't allow that, but he wasn't doing wrong, but he was going to disrupt the service. So, you know, just a lot of different things can happen. On Sundays, have a number of uniformed police officers working building security and a number of working traffic. You know, Cornerstone, you know, a bunch of people leave after service, so I got to have uniformed officers out on the street directing traffic. This helps have a police sergeant as one of the officers working when you do have a lot of officers. If you just have one contract officer or two, that's fine. But if you got 10 to 15 uniformed police officers, it's best to have a sergeant because they need direction also. Yes, I'm the director of security, and I don't want to make this sound ugly, but even though I retired from the city and a lot of those guys know me, I'm not blue no more to them. So me walking up to these three officers telling them what to do, yes, I'm probably going to get a good response, but it's just a whole lot easier for me to call up the sergeant, hey, can you get your officers to do this? And the sergeant walks up, hey guys, real easy for them to, oh yes sir, and they'll do it. So that's why I do it. I have a sergeant that takes care of the traffic. I have a sergeant that takes care of the building guys. It's just a whole lot easier. I get a hold of him, he takes care of the officers. Plainclothes officers, like I said, inside the sanctuary so you don't cause a disturbance, but people know who they are. And training. This is the first part of your training. I always suggest that, yes, you get talked to, y'all come up with y'all's policies, y'all's plans, your procedures, and then you work on them. You walk through them. You run scenarios. You run exercises. You guys position where you're going to position, and then you get some of your younger guys to try and penetrate the property and see if y'all catch them. We used to do that. We haven't done that in many years, but we would take up our post where we would on Sunday, and we had like our audio and visual little 18, 20-year-old kids sitting in the sanctuary throughout, on a Tuesday evening, and they would come up with their little plans on how to get the pastor, and we had a guy acting as pastor, and see if they could get to pastor, see if we were able to stop them before they got to pastor. Yeah, most of the time they got to pastor. They're 18, 20 years old. They'd run up and clear these 4 steps, and before my guy that was standing over here, so it taught us, Luckily, 18, 20-year-olds aren't going to be your typical, that's not typically your bad guy, it's going to be an older guy, so, you're going to be evenly matched. But yeah, what if it is a 18-year-old? And then they come up with other scenarios, we have a splash zone, and this is our splash zone. During service, nobody gets in this area. If somebody's walking down this aisle, my guy that was standing over here needs to be mindful. Okay, well, yeah, I saw him get up from that seat right there. That's where he's going. Okay. Or he's coming down the aisle. I don't remember him getting up from anywhere. And you start scanning. You should have already scanned and know if there's open seat. If Miss Jones is saving the seat next to her for Mr. Jones, so that might be Mr. Jones. But if you go through all this in a split second, man, there ain't no seats up here. Where is he going? Hey, I got a guy, red shirt, coming down, between sections 1 and 2. Of course, everybody else should already see it. But you don't want the guy over there focused on this area over here. He's got his quadrant. So you need to be mindful. If he breaks the splash zone, you're moving to stop whatever his intent is. We've stopped people from coming up here and just dropping to a knee to pray. That's not going to happen with pastor preaching. Again, sorry, it might sound ugly, but it's just not going to happen. Well, are we going to be rough with them? No, we're going to get them up, walk them out. Hey, man, what's the deal? I just need prayer. Okay, good, man. Stand right here. Hey, I need a pastor on duty, or, somebody from Ministry of Helps or whatever. Or, have them in your phone. Hey, pastor, not the pastor up on stage, pastor that's one of his associates. Hey, I need you back here, got a problem. And this did happen at Cornerstone. I like telling little stories. We had a young guy, white t-shirt, blue jeans, came in during the service, sat in the back, which was odd, not because of the way he was dressed, but he came in after service, and, yes, most people wear suits. We don't discriminate, but we just picked him up. And he sat down in the back. And then he moved forward. And he moved forward. And this was during service. And he just kept moving forward. And when he would sit down, you could see him. And then he would find an open seat and move to it. And he got to about six rows from the front, and my phone's going off from congregants calling me or texting me, hey, man, did y'all see this guy? Man, he's just acting weird. Well, yeah, of course, we got our eye on him. He makes it to the front row, and during service, I had to tell the guy on stage, get him out of here. You know, he's freaking me out. I don't know what his intention is. So while pastor's preaching, 2 officers walked up to him, grabbed him, and took him out the side door. Sounds ugly. Got him back there. Of course, first words out of his mouth, you're just picking on me because I'm the way I'm dressed. I'm not wearing a suit. Well, no, I'm picking on you. I'm not picking on you at all. I'm talking to you because you're freaking everybody out. What's the deal? Young kid, girlfriend broke up with him, going through finals, and he was high on ecstasy or something. Just not thinking straight. I just want prayer. I want to hear the word. Okay. Got one of the associate pastors, led him in the Lord's Prayer. You know, sinner's prayer in the back. You know, so, and then, you know, he was like, well, can I stay for next service? I was like, yeah, but your butt is sitting on the back row and you ain't moving. And he did, you know, so, you know, it sounded ugly at first, but, you know, we were able to help him out, so. Working relationship with SAPD and SAFD. Train. Yeah, so, you know, have that working relationship with the substation. You are West Patrol, I believe. So, you know, have that working relationship with them. You know, have the Sunday officers come by here. You know, have like a first responders prayer Sunday service. You know, and have the guys come by here and, you know, after service, you know, feed them tacos or not donuts. That's a myth. Tacos. We eat tacos. You know, have some kind of little Sunday social for these guys and, you know, say, hey, guys, you know, whenever y'all are, you know, working in this area and you're writing reports, man, feel free to park in my parking lot. And, you know, because we got to sit somewhere to write our reports, you know. So, I mean, you know, have that working relationship with them. Visit the fire station that services this area. I think 10 is too far. Fire station 10, that's at Zazamoor and Culebra, but whatever it is, you know, meet with those guys too, you know. So, you know, get a good working relationship with them. Training. Include your security, ushers, greeters, anyone that might be a first contact with visitors, sit-down meetings, walk-through exercises, practical exercises, and scenarios. That's what I was talking about. You know, this is your first step. Tomorrow you're doing something, you know, and continue it. You know, like you said, you know, it's volunteer, so you're going to have that turnover. You know, I don't do volunteers at work. We do with the ushers, but in security I don't. But you know, I try and do training with the ushers. It doesn't happen a whole lot just because 200, it's just hard to get those guys all together. Most of them are ex-military, so they're hard-headed sometimes. They got their routine on a Saturday morning, you know, so they don't want to take it out to come, you know, for 2 hours of training. But we're trying. Range day, this is some of my guys out at range day, you know, doing their thing. Just because they go through every 2 years qualification, but I try and send them out every 6 months. That's what the state requires, every 2 years. Go through some definitions real quick. Vigilance, the action or state of keeping careful watch for possible dangers or difficulties. Observance, the action of watching or noticing something. Detection, the action or process of identifying the presence of something concealed. Some definitions. How they work. If you're vigilant, it equals observance. So if you're standing at the door, that's your post for that Sunday. Don't have your face buried in your phone. Don't be thinking about what you're going to do for lunch with your wife. Don't be thinking about how the Cowboys blew the Thursday night game or the Spurs lost again or whatever. You got to be vigilant. That's your job. Your job is watching that door. Again, if you see something, you're not going to approach it unless it's a danger. You're going to get the greeter to take care of the little things. But that's your job. You got to be vigilant. And if you're vigilant, you're going to be observant. You're going to notice things. If you're not, I have this problem with my guys, not my officers, not my security officers, but my police officers. Not a whole lot, but every now and then I'll get a complaint that, hey, man, your guy's at the door with his phone. Okay, well, he's not being vigilant, so I got to, like I said, I could walk up to him and tell him it's just easier for me to get a hold of the supervisor. Hey, man, the guy over at door, south doors, I just got a complaint looking at his phone. Okay, I'll take care of it, Rob. And now he makes a phone call. As an officer, getting a phone call from a sergeant, even if it's not your sergeant on duty, but you're getting a phone call from a sergeant, yeah, you pucker up and, oh, crap. So you got to be vigilant. You can't be doing things like that because then you're not observant. And if you're observant, then you're going to detect things. You're not going to see that Bowie knife on this guy's hip when he walks in. Is that illegal? Not anymore. You carry a sword around and it's legal, but I don't want that in my church. I don't want that, with 4,300 other people. Does it happen? Yeah, every now and then, you get the rancher that walks in. And most of the time it's like, oh, man, I'm sorry. Man, go put that away in your car, please. If you weren't vigilant, you weren't observant, so you didn't detect that knife that just walked in. So what's going to happen? My phone's going to be ringing. Hey, Rob, man, there's a guy, in section A3, third row, man, big old Bowie knife on him. Okay, well, now I can't ignore it. So now during service, I don't want to get a uniform guy in because it draws too much. I got to get myself or one of the, I don't want to send an usher because he doesn't have the training to handle the situation, so I got to pull one of my plainclothes officers off his assignment that's important to deal with something that the uniform guy should have picked up already. It's not complicated, but if you don't do it, it falls apart. Approach visitors. Let me back up and go over those. Always be attentive, always be alert, always be ready, always be expecting, always think, what if this happens, what is my action? Always be prepared. Military guys, ex-law enforcement, my whole career was what if. Now, I just read a story not too long ago where you shouldn't think like that. But, my whole career I did. While I'm driving around, what if this happens in front of me? What's my response? What if I get a call, or I get a call, hey, double homicide, such and such, what if, so I'm already going through these things. I did it when I was standing stage all those years for Cornerstone. What if God comes down this aisle? What if God comes running down this aisle? What if, the lady in the hat stands up and starts recording? Again, is that, a major thing? But now it's a disruption, I could get an usher to take care of that. I had a lady start playing the tambourine while it was praise and worship. So it was a little awkward. Praise and worship's going on, everybody's singing, and she pulls out a tambourine and starts, well, that's not allowed in our church. So I had to walk up to her. Sounds stupid, ma'am. You need to put your tambourine away. Well, it's praise and worship. I understand that. You can praise and worship all you want, but we don't want the tambourine. Well, why not? Well, ma'am, I'm not going to sit here and get in a discussion with you. Real quick, if I allow you to do it, next week I got a trumpet. The next week I got a guitar. The next week I got a guy bringing drums in. So it's not going to happen. Put it away. Okay, thank you. Took about 3 steps. So you got to be kidding me. I turned around and walked by. I was like, we're really going to go here. You're going to make me kick you out for a tambourine. And what upset me the most, her husband is standing there straight ahead, looking straight ahead. And I'm talking to her, she was on the end. I'm talking to her and kept looking at him. I'm like, dude, help me out here, man. He was not going to get involved in this discussion, man. So she put it away finally, but yeah, it was real awkward, So what if these things happen, So, when y'all run through these scenarios, I don't know if that's what you're going to do tomorrow, y'all come up with, what if this happens? And always be prepared. Let's see. Approach visitors, notice things about them. Are they engaged in the service? Make eye contact, engage them in conversation. Ask them questions about themselves and what they are interested in. If you have a strange feeling, get a second person to join the conversation. If things still don't feel right, you get the uniform guy over there. So, like I said, you see the guy or girl or whatever come walking in, approach him. Hey, I'm Robert. I haven't seen y'all around here before, Oh, yeah, we've been here a few times. Oh, well, what's y'all's names? You don't have to do this to every person. And now, of course, what we've had happen a couple of times, and it's not a sticky situation, but you just got to know how to handle it. The two ladies that walked in holding hand in hand. Okay? My pastor preaches against that. But does that mean that they're, need to be kicked out of the church? No. So, I had that call, cross-dresser. Hey, got a cross-dresser that just walked in. I was like, okay, leave him alone, or leave it alone, whatever it is. Leave it alone. I was like, see where they sit, and just be mindful of where they sit. I had, hey, can we get rid of them? No, that's what they want. Or maybe that's what they want. They want you to react to them, and now, I had one on a Sunday, 3 Sunday nights in a row, come in, sit there for praise and worship a little bit, obvious guy in a dress, and would go into the female restroom. Happened the first Sunday. So I was like, all right, let me switch my uniform guys around. I need a female officer to be at that restroom. Next week, came back. Follow it in, but don't make contact. That's what she did. Walked in, acted like she was looking in the mirror. He walked out, came back the third week, same thing. After that, he gave up. He wanted us to react. We didn't. We reacted slightly, but nothing that would cause them to have a lawsuit. And going back to the protesters, always be mindful. If you got a protester, you got a clown with a videotape that's with them. Or not a videotape, a phone now. Shows how old I am. You're going to have somebody with the phone videotaping your reaction to that protester. And it's going to wind up on YouTube. And, yeah, we'll stop there. If you don't feel right about them, get one of your other greeters. Hey, Tom, come over here. Hey, man, who'd you say you were again? And, get a feel, and if it still doesn't seem right, get security over there and let them deal with them. And then detection equals safety. By you interacting with someone, you may deter them and their intended action. Like I said at the beginning, I guarantee that we've deterred people from doing stupid things at Cornerstone just because of our security measures. By you interacting with somebody, you may even lead them to the Lord. I already told you about that. Even if you don't interact with them, but they see your vigilance, it can, but it will, not it can, it will deter them. Others will feel safe seeing your vigilance. All the other people that are coming to your service to praise and worship, to get fed, to hear the pastor, they're going to appreciate your vigilance because they feel safe. And we'll get into that, I think. Okay. Real quick, OODA loop military. So y'all know about OODA loop. We do this thousands of times a day. You observe, orient, decide, and act. Y'all have done it 100 times a day. When you woke up, y'all observed something, you oriented yourself to it, you decided how to react to it, and then you acted to it. I just throw that in there to show that, even when you're not consciously being vigilant and observant, you still are. If you don't have your face in the phone or you're at least standing at the door, you're processing things. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. You're processing what's happening around you, and we do it thousands of times a day. Domestic issues. The church setting is no different from the outside world. I'm talking about family disturbances and domestic violence. When a fight at home spills over to the church, security needs to be ready. Anything from cheating spouse, bad divorce, bankruptcy, child custody, new marriage. Like I said, church is a hub for, that's where I met my wife. My current wife was at church, So we were both divorced, but that's where we met. So before y'all think something. Yeah. But, so, you're going to have those issues, people going through divorce and then hooking up with other people in the church, and, the other person's still going to church. Is there going to be an issue? The child custody thing, is that issues? Coming in, Tom and Jane keep coming in, for months and years, and now all of a sudden you see Tom walk in, and now here comes Jane, and you're like, again, be vigilant, be observant of that. Okay, what's going on here? Next Sunday, same thing, Okay, well, I don't want you to be nosy, but, maybe start, what's going on here? Now they're sitting separate, and, start asking questions. Hey, what's the deal? Not necessarily them, but just have your ears open to see what's happening. Man, it could be absolutely fine. They just decide to get divorced and everything's good, but you just got to be ready for if it's not. Y'all can look this guy up, Carl Chin. We won't go over a whole lot on this. He does nothing but church statistics, and he's very good at it. In 2016, 65 violent deaths in churches or ministries. 52 murders, 7 suicides, 6 aggressors killed in action. What that is police were chasing a guy, he wound up on church property, and officers killed him. That's what that means. 52 murders were committed in 47 attacks. What's that mean? A couple of them were multiple victims. In the 47 attacks, action stopped only because the attacker stopped the action. So that's very important. All those, what made him stop? Himself. He either gave up to police or he ran out and didn't hurt nobody else. Triggers were known in 29 of the 47 attacks. 11 of the 29 that were known were domestic abuse with 13 victims. 5 of the 29 were personal conflict. 4 of the 29 were robberies. All other reasons accounted for 1 or 2 attacks each. 8 of the 11 domestic attacks were affiliated with ministry. 3 were in leadership, meaning pastor was a victim. Never forget about the inside threat. That's just talking about, like I keep mentioning, families. It's not always the bad guy walking in, the Mideastern guy, or the guy running in, that looks like a terrorist. You got your domestic terrorists too. Soft target versus hard target. Soft target, a person or thing that is relatively unprotected or vulnerable to attack. Hard target, a person or thing due to their actions and appropriate protective measures is able to minimize existing risk and thus likely represents an unattractive target. So that's why I keep talking about a hard target. You want to make yourself a hard target. Churches are not hard targets. Now they're becoming because of what happened in Sutherland Springs. Malls are soft targets. Movie theaters are soft targets. But what are you seeing every time there's a mass shooting at Aurora? Now you see police officers in all the movie theaters. They're contracted police officers. Malls. A lot of mall cops, the rent-a-cops, but a lot of malls do hire a couple of uniformed police officers also. But now, my feeling is the last soft target really out there is a church, because pastors, administrators didn't want to put that uniform out on the front porch because it made it look uninviting. But things have changed now, so we want to be a hard target, at the very least seem like a hard target. Yes, most definitely you want to be a hard target in case something happens, you can react, but at least look like a hard target. How can you be an inviting hard target to the right people? Again, be vigilant, observant, and friendly. You don't have to make contact to be effective. Be confident. Strategically place your team members. Bump your team members if posted for any length of time. have visible security uniform blazers, earpieces, have non-visible security as well. So what I'm talking about, yeah, you can't afford police officers, but if you're volunteer security, you can wear blazers, you can wear earpieces. Don't just wear an earpiece, have it connected to a radio and actually use it for something. Funny story is, you know, all our guys wore suits and earpieces, and we used to have this one clown. He was a member, and he would always sit in the front, and he would have a Bluetooth, and we all wore lapel pins, and he got one that looked similar to ours, and whenever church service was over, he'd always get up and, you know, stand there, and some of the guys were upset with that. I'm like, why? And we're not paying him, but he looks like one of us, so let him do it, you know. It was fine. I mean, everybody knew that we were armed, and, you know, like a newcomer would see him jump up, and they'd be like, oh, look, there's another one. And some of the guys were like, man, we need to get rid of him. No, don't get rid of him. We're not paying him to do that, man. You know, again, what's the word? When you see something, you think it's something, you know, so. Having a plan, be vigilant and observant is just part of the plan. What do you do if any of the listed situations occur during your service? The simplest thing as a medical emergency can make you look incompetent if not handled quickly and correctly. Devise a plan and train on that plan. If we have a medical emergency and it's not handled correctly, I'm talking to whoever didn't handle it correctly after service. You know, why did it take so long to get that person out of service? Now, if they drop dead right there and we got to perform CPR right there, that's going to happen. I'm not saying that we're going to be mean and we're going to drag this person, you know, out the door and work on them out there, but if we can get them out, you know, if we get a wheelchair in here and put them in a wheelchair and get them out and assess them, triage them out there, that's what's going to happen. But, you know, if my medic takes too long to get there, or if a protester stands up and it's, you know, of course it wouldn't be a minute. If it's, you know, 30 seconds before one of my guys makes contact, I'm asking why did it take so long to get that protester out? Because it made, be honest, made me look incompetent. Made you look incompetent, made my department look incompetent. I don't want that. Because after I talk to you, or probably even before I talk to you, my butt's getting called in the pastor's office, and he's asking me the same thing. Why did it take so long to get that guy out of here? So, as y'all know, what rolls downhill, so you cannot avoid every situation, but if handled quickly, correctly, and efficiently, you can minimize the negative results of the situation. So again, you know, uniform missed something, but the guys inside caught it quickly and took care of it. Okay, yes, I'm going to be talking to the uniform guy. Hey, dude, man, what were you doing? Why did you miss the Bowie knife coming in? Now, if it's a Bowie knife on the hip and the guy's got a jacket, okay, yeah, he missed it because it's covered. Now he got into the sanctuary, it got warm, he took his jacket off, now somebody saw the Bowie knife. Okay, understand that happens. But, you know, if it's a guy that walked in with no coat and a big old Bowie knife, I'm asking, man, how'd you miss that? Again, yes, he missed it, but he'll still handle quickly and minimize the negative effects. Don't forget about the rest of the week. If you have a daycare, if you don't have anything going on, you still have church staff on property during the week. So, you know, you got to protect them during the week. Like I said, GEI has about 700 employees. We have that K-4 through 12 schools. So I got teachers, administrators. So how do you protect all those people? I have active shooter drills. I'd had one for each week after. It was after Sutherland Springs, before Parkland. So it was in between those two shootings. I met with all the employees. I stood up on stage and talked to all the employees for about an hour talking about active shooter. What do you do in case of an active shooter comes into the workplace? I showed a video. We talked about Stop the Bleed campaign. And then that wasn't just it. I was like, y'all all be prepared because I'm going to have a bad guy coming into your building popping off rounds. So between now and when I send you out an email saying on this date, about this time, you're going to be under attack, you need to devise a plan on what you're going to do if this happens. And then I did it. And yeah, it was pretty cool. I had a bad guy go in with a starter pistol and started popping off rounds, and people scrambled, and it wasn't just a drill for them. My officers didn't know when I was going to do it, so it was a drill for them. How long is it going to take for somebody to hit the emergency button on their phone to notify my dispatcher? I have a dispatcher Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Notify my dispatcher, him notify the officers, hey, we got active shooter in such and such building. How long does it take for them to get there? How long did it take them to go through the building and find the active shooter? 2 buildings, 45 seconds. 2 different buildings. They were small buildings that had probably about 10 employees. From the time the bad guy walked in, not from that time because that didn't count. From the time a staff member hit the emergency button on their phone to the time my officers got in there and took down the bad guy, 45 seconds on 2 buildings. So again, I'm bragging here, and I know that's not right, although Cornerstone's lucky. They have first responders on their property. And that's why I try to tell these employees that, you guys, yeah, they're security officers, but they're armed, trained, so yeah, 45 seconds. One building it took about 6 minutes, but it was a huge building, and I still think that was good timing for them to find the shooter and take him down. Because, yeah, he wasn't walking around popping off rounds, and you didn't have employees screaming like you would in a real shooting. So it kind of got quiet once all the people were out of the building or locked in their rooms, so they kind of had to go by the camera system and phone calls, but still found them. Keep your staff and students safe, keep doors closed, keep them locked if possible. No matter how few staff or students you have, create emergency procedures to include lockdown procedure. Practice those emergency procedures. Cameras and card access doors are great. Like I said, training. I'm going to Denver in July for a school safety seminar. So, we're talking about church, but I also have that big school, and I have to do all this stuff to protect them too. So I'm going to a school seminar on safety put on by the I Love You Foundation. Crime prevention, the old crime prevention from back in the 90s. Make sure doors and windows operate like they should. Make sure that you have adequate lighting. Make sure bushes near windows are trimmed away from the window. Establish a relationship with your district police officers. So again, making sure doors lock properly and they shut right. And, like I said, Cornerstone's 30 years old, so a lot of doors don't shut right, and I'm always on them. People will, open the door, badge in, and then walk in, but then when the door closes, it doesn't latch because it's an old door. So I have to send out reminders to all the employees, hey man, pull the door closed behind you so knucklehead that's trying to get in doesn't come up and, oh, the door's unlatched because they didn't pull it closed. Now they're in the building, whether it's a purse snatcher or a thief or active shooter. So, almost done. We'll talk about this real quick. Penal Code 3006, 3006. Trespass by holder of license to carry concealed handgun. A license holder commits an offense if the license holder, one, and I didn't put everything in here. If you want to know everything that's on here, you can go to the Penal Code. Carries a handgun under authority of subsection H, chapter 411, Government Code, on property of another without effective consent, and received notice that entry on property by license holder with a concealed handgun was forbidden, or remaining on the property with a concealed handgun was forbidden and failed to depart. For purposes of this section, a person receives notice if the owner of the property or someone with apparent authority to act for the owner provides notice to the person by oral or written communication. In this section, written communication means a card or other document on which is written language identical to the following. Pursuant to Section 3006, Penal Code, trespass by holder of license to carry a concealed handgun, a person licensed under subsection H. Chapter 411 Government Code, concealed handgun law, may not enter this property with a concealed handgun. A sign posted on the property that include the language described in paragraph A that I just read in both English and Spanish appears in contrasting colors with block letters at least 1 inch in height and is displayed in conspicuous manner clearly visible to the public. An offense under the subsection of this section is a Class A misdemeanor. Then 3007 is the same language, but it's for open carry. I'll go through this too. Texas Penal Code 46.035, Texas Penal Code 46.035, unlawful carrying of handgun by license holder. A license holder commits an offense if the license holder intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly carries a handgun under the authority of subsection H, Chapter 411 Government Code, regardless of whether the handgun is concealed on or about the license holder's person, on the premises of a church, synagogue, or other establishment, place of religious worship. This is the important part. Subsections B4, B5, B6, which I just read, and C do not apply if the actor was not given effective notice under Section 3006 or 3007. Sign to the left is not correct. Sign to the right is correct. That's what's posted at Cornerstone. So, real quick, what I'm talking about there is at Cornerstone, we allow concealed carry. So I do not have a 3006 sign outside the church. If I did, anybody that is concealed carry goes to jail. A lot of people would go to jail because they're not going to leave their gun at home for whatever reason. I do have a 3007 sign because I don't want open carry in my church. I say my church, sorry, in Cornerstone. It's just that simple. The law says I can do that. So by not having the sign posted, they're okay to concealed carry. Now, somebody walks in with their weapon open. Am I going to walk up to them, jack them up, or have one of the officers jack them up, handcuff them, get them out of there? No. I'm going to find out what their problem is. And this happened not too long ago. I'm standing there, and we had an event outside, and this guy's walking across with a backpack, army backpack, and a white hand towel covering his gun. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So I walk up to him and tactically walked up to him, and as I got closer, I noticed he was a congregant. I was like, dude, what are you doing? I was like, why are you carrying your gun? Oh, you can see my gun. I was like, no, I can see a towel holding your gun, covering your gun. I was like, which is silly, because now you're totally tactically screwed. But he was like, oh, well, just for safety. I was like, how long you been a member here? Oh, 10 years, whatever he said. He had his wife and kids. I was like, dude, man, you don't think there's enough security around here? I was like, you're just looking tough. I can tell that's what your thought process is here. I was like, let me see your license. I don't have it. Right there, the hair on my neck stood up because I should have arrested him, because now he's just totally illegal. But I didn't. I was like, you don't have your license. I was like, I can arrest you right now for violation of the rules of 3007. I was like, or the rules governing that you can do this. I was like, you need to go put it away. Another thing I should have done, I shouldn't have said, go put it in your car, because now what do I have? I have a weapon inside of a car in a parking lot that could be burglarized, and now I got some thug with another gun on the street. But, I'm trying to be nice to this guy, and then the wife stepped in not like the other incident. She steps in, honey, go put your gun away. I was like, yes, please go put your gun away. So yeah, I mean, I was even soft-hearted there. I could have arrested him. I could have told him, man, you got to get off my property. You can't put it in your car. You need to go home. So all that being said, yes, you're going to have those incidents where people are going to have brain farts and do just stupid stuff. They wake up in the morning for some reason and not think. We've had guys come into the service, take their jacket off because it's hot. Now their gun's exposed. Am I going to be a weenie about it? No, I'm going to walk over. Dude, man, put your jacket back on. I'm getting phone calls from the people behind you that they can see your gun. Oh, man, I'm sorry, and puts the jacket back on. So, there's just all these different things that can happen. But it's up to your pastor on what he wants to do. If he doesn't want concealed or no guns in here at all, post the signs. People that walk in and get caught can go to jail, or at the least you can say, dude, it's posted, you can't do that, you got to put it away. Or not have the signs at all and not worry about it. So, and then the last slide, I promise. Let's see. Oh yeah, I just broke my promise. Went the wrong way. Coming together for the protection of our church members and visitors. Same slide as before, because that's what this is all about. So, that's it for my PowerPoint. I'll open it up to Q&A, and I'll answer what I can.
So, thank you, by the way, for coming. I know you're coming at your own time.
Yes, sir.
So, the main reason why I came for this training, it wasn't addressed in this presentation, was for a terrorist attack. And there's a difference between an active shooter and a terrorist attack.
Yes, sir.
There's only 3 of us men in this church, myself, Brother Koenig in the back, and another gentleman that isn't here that have combat experience in putting down active shooters or terrorist attacks from Iraq, Afghanistan, and Vietnam. The rest of the gentlemen here, something that my concern is for the training for them. Now, someone that decides to do a terrorist attack, I got all the things you said about, the science and stuff, about someone that has made up their mind to come in with a 5.56 or higher caliber rifle, like it happened in Southern or the Las Vegas shooter, that has no intention of walking out in his body armor. Right? I know how to cover him, and he knows how to cover me, and we have certain entry points. We've been doing the brunt of our security here.
Yes, sir.
When it comes to securing the congregation, if a terrorist attack actually took place, someone just pulls, I've been a cornerstone several times, someone pulls up to the very front, just walks right through, and starts firing and engaging. Right? What is some of the protocol that you would recommend or suggest that maybe y'all have in place for a terrorist attack, for people that are wounded, for engaging the meaning of the shooter? Because one of the things that we have on the sign that I disagree with completely, and I told my pastor, is the recommendations from DHS or law enforcement on running first, safety first, that kind of stuff. You're an active target being shot at.
Right.
You have to eliminate the threat immediately. And someone with a handgun shooting back at someone that's coming in with a 5.56 or AR-15 or anything higher than that, it's almost a mismatch. Okay? How do we address the terrorist attack? Your recommendation?
Well, I got asked this by one of my contracted sergeants one day. He's always posted in one of our buildings, not the sanctuary, but where we have kids. And he read my policies and procedures. And he was like, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? And my answer to him was like, dude, we can't plan for everything. I mean, what if, a truck pulls up, what was that movie? With Chuck Norris, where they got in Invasion USA. I was like, a truck could pull up with 10 guys with AKs and jump out. How are we going to defend that? It's like, so I can't come up with a planned reaction for everything. But what I can do is get you guys to be in that mindset. Again, what if this happens? You mentioned about the run, hide, fight. The run, hide, fight. That's one of the active shooter deals. I had a conversation with my pastor and Pastor Matt, and he doesn't like the word hide. And, it took me a little bit, and, I agreed. I was like, you know what? Yeah, So I've changed it, or I'm changing it, process of changing it to what's called ADD, avoid, deny, defend. Same concept. Run, get out of the building if you can, but you got to have that mindset of fighting. Not hide, but you deny the bad guy getting to you. So yeah, if you do get through that door and there's no way out of that room, all right, yeah, you don't get underneath the desk and hide. You plan on fighting. If the guy breaches the door, now you're prepared to fight. Pair of scissors, letter opener, fire extinguisher, whatever. And, if they come through the door, man, you go to town on them. Also, if you're running to get out of the building, if the shots are in A wing and you're in B wing, yeah, get out of the building. But don't have your head up your butt and be just running, and what if you run into a second shooter? So my answer is, you got to just prepare yourself for these different things. Yeah, if, like right now, if two guys come in here with AKs, I mean, yeah, we're screwed, the thing to do is try and minimize it. Yes, if two guys, or a guy walks in, yeah, I hope we're not all trying to run out that door. Hopefully some of us are going towards them, and trying to take them out. That's a hard thing to have a definite answer for.
That's actually what's happening. They're terrorist attacks. So if we have, I guess, the logic that I'm trying to posit is, if we're going to prepare, if we get everything else wrong, and it's the one reason that we're looking for security that we want to get right, is to stop a sudden attack. Someone that is going to come in, which we're vigilant. We have our cameras, and like I said, if one of us goes down trying to engage, we have hopefully at least one person who's still trying to engage, at least someone else or a group can get out.
Right.
So that's the mentality that we have, and the three of us trying to incorporate. So my question is, if we're going to get everything else wrong and just one thing right, which is trying to minimize the damage of
Yes.
the terrorist attack, how do we incorporate the rest of the group that has either never had that type of training? Because you can have all training in the world,
right.
but there's a difference between training and having
And this is where it starts. Conversations, bringing an outside person in. If it wasn't me, bringing somebody else in to talk to y'all. And now when I leave, pastor and you guys get together and you start formulating these plans, and you start getting the mentality. That's what you said, and I totally agree. Getting the mentality of protecting your congregants, protecting each other. Maybe one day we will have to worry about, like Israel, and Europe and overseas, where there are actual terrorist attacks. Sutherland Springs, not a terrorist attack, domestic terrorism. If you look up the definition of terrorism, it's to cause fear and alarm, and that's what he did. Now, was it a jihadist coming in and doing it? No, it was just some knucklehead from down the road doing it. So yes, it's still terrorism. Usually it's lone wolf. It's the one guy that's just socially awkward, or and you want to talk about vigilance. I mean, man, the last 3 or 4 clowns could have been stopped if FBI or other people just were vigilant in noticing this. Hey, man, what's wrong with Johnny, man? Why is he posting all these Facebook pictures with guns all of a sudden, Nobody said anything. FBI had their radar on, well, no, not FBI, DOD had their eyes on the clown at Sutherland Springs. FBI had their eye on the Parkland shooting guy. The Pulse nightclub shooter, FBI had their eyes on him, but didn't do anything about it. FBI overworked? I don't know. I don't work for the government, but there has to be some reason why they're not doing their job correctly.
Well, we can draw something up.
Yes, plans and yes.
Something to that effect that maybe we can look at.
Yes. Oh, do I? Well, now you start looking at liability. I can stand here and talk to you and not get paid, because that would be a conflict, because I work for another church. So I do it on my own time. But now if I start actually giving you plans and training you guys, and something goes wrong, I'm not saying you would, but you could go back to Cornerstone and said, your guy trained us and look what happened. It was a total foobar, and now Cornerstone's in trouble. So I don't actually do the training. I could recommend somebody, but of course you're going to pay. I deal with, like I said, we do all this training, but I deal with Sean Thornton. He's a former DSS badass, diplomatic security service guy, and he's protected embassies. He's set up protection for embassies in Iraq and Afghanistan. I mean, he's one of those true, guys that you see on TV that knows it's crap. That's who trains us. That's why we're so good. I reach out to the best. My predecessor had Israeli IDF soldiers come in to train us. We've gone through Krav Maga, so I mean, we've had years of training in Krav. We used to go to the range every week, so yes, training, but I mean, I can give you the name to Sean Thornton. His company is Paraclete Consulting, and he'll come out here and do an assessment on your building and train you guys.
So, in the situation that was mentioned here, the biggest thing is if we get to that point we have failed in our one deterrence, and the other one is vigilance. Because we ought to set, if that's the case, we ought to, as an anti-terrorism officer, I set layers of security.
Right.
And so layer one, parking lot and outside.
Yes.
Layer two is right there in the foyer.
Yes.
If you go beyond layer two, we have failed completely.
Right.
In order to avoid that to happen. And if with each layer the security increases. Like I protected the THAAD missile system in Guam, which is what we have in order to protect against a missile coming in from Korea.
Yes.
And that's how I did my not only anti-terrorism, but I had to do high security level A, which is similar to a nuclear missile security, and that is exactly the same. It's a layered security.
Yes.
And so it isn't about engaging and taking out; it's about the deterrence. If
Seeing before it happens.
you shake a person's hand and you put the hand on their back, you already felt if they have something or not, and they don't even notice it that you do.
Right.
You rub their hey, come on down and rub their hand on the back. Okay, come on over and all this here. Would you like to sit here?
Right.
And that's the situation is that vigilance that is unnoticed is what's going to do it, because
Right.
a terrorist will never attack a hard target.
Right.
Like you said, they're cowards.
Yes. Yeah, they don't want the resistance. And I touched on it real brief, but yeah, I mean, that's one of the things at Cornerstone. It starts in the parking lot. I got people in the parking lot. My doors are protected. The inside's protected. I got rovers. I mean, that doesn't mean I'm not still learning, and I can't still learn, but yeah, I mean, yeah, you're exactly right. If they don't catch it in the parking lot, which a lot of times they don't, the guy at the door better catch it. And like I gave you a couple of examples of when they didn't. And yeah, I look at it as a fail. Did anything happen? No. But yeah, it was a failure on my security system. What if the guy with the Bowie knife was a bad guy? Now I got a weapon inside the sanctuary, and would he get the pastor? No. He wouldn't get the pastor, but is it going to be messy? Yeah, it's going to be messy, and it could have been avoided at the door. Now, you can't stop everything. The protesters that I talked about, man, they're normal-looking kids, white, black, Hispanic, Asian, with flags tucked in their shirts or in their purse, and yeah, how are you going to stop that? But once it starts, you're going to stop it. Yeah.
Because it might get ugly.
Yeah.
And that's when you're going to have to take that action. And it's a split decision that can keep you out of jail or put you in jail, but that's...
Yeah, and I try and take care of that too. I spoke to the Cornerstone Choir one day. Big choir. Y'all might have seen it on I don't know how many members, 100 members. But it got back to me, a lot of those guys are ex-military. A lot of them carry. I have the policy where you can carry. It got back to me one day after the Sutherland Springs that they were all asking each other, so, what's our job with security if all hell breaks loose? If there's an active shooter in the pews, what's our job? I called the choir director. I need to talk to those guys during practice on Wednesday. I spoke to them and I put the rule down. And I was like, here's your responsibility to help security. None. Absolutely zero. You are not to pull your weapon and think that because you have your concealed license, yes, Tom, you might have been 20 years in the military, but little Jimmy over here is 21 and shot 50 rounds at a paper target, and he's carrying a gun just like you are. Neither one of you are going to pull your weapon in chaos and shoot from the choir loft at a bad guy in the... Right. Yes. Yeah, I told him that they're going to see you chasing the bad guy and take you out too, because they didn't see who you were chasing. And I told them, if you can't abide by my rule, leave your gun at home. Didn't say leave it in your car. At that point, I was like, you leave it at home if you do not think that you can't not clear leather, because of your impulse or whatever, don't do it. I wouldn't do it. With all my military training and police training, I wouldn't take a shot at this gentleman if all chaos was broken out, because I'm getting bumped, he's moving if you're the bad guy. Got people between us. I'm not taking a shot unless it's clear, nothing's behind them, or, I can come up. And like I said, my team's done Krav Maga, so that's first option is he's got a gun, it's my gun. I don't need to pull my gun because I'm taking his. I mean, that's the mentality I have and my team has, so. Yeah, not the congregation, the ushers. Cornerstone's got, y'all could do it here. I'm not saying, having a small congregation in this case is a good thing. We got 22,000 members. Of course, not all at one time, but I don't know which of those 22,000 is going to be in the sanctuary. So there's just no way of doing that. What I do have is what's called a Safety Center app, and I can push that out to anybody that wants to download that Safety Center. Of course, you need the password to get into my procedures, but I've given that to all the ushers. So the ushers know exactly what to do for smoke, for fire, for a tornado, for an active shooter, for a protester. They have them on their phone, and I've told them study them, and I will be meeting with them here soon and it's going to be a long session because it's 200 of them, and they're all military, and I know I'm going to be there hours answering questions. Not looking forward to it, man. But they have it, so they know what to do. Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Brown sitting there, they're not going to have a clue on what to do. But it's that usher that has that position of authority over that little section every Sunday, and he knows Mr. and Mrs. Brown, and he knows this guy and that guy. And that's something else I tell him, hey, when you have a guy that's not acting right in your section, let me know. So that's a whole nother topic. But yes, it is their job to, hey, I know that we're in section C11 by door 12. Shooter comes in door 1, I'm getting these guys out door 12 because the shooter's over there. We're not going to stay here. I'm getting them out. If you're in section 1, C1, and the shooter comes in door 1, okay, yeah, we're not trying to get out a door. It's too late. The shooter's right there. Now the plan is take his butt down. Yes, like I said, he's going to take out a couple of us, but and I'm not speaking ill about the poor folks in Sutherland Springs. That's what they did. They laid down in the pews and prayed and got wasted. That is not going to happen at Cornerstone, and that's why I'm doing these little talks, because I don't want it happening at any church. Take the guy out. You know, if he comes in that door, yes, man, that's a long way to go to try and take him out. You know, maybe you got a lot of open area. You know, maybe try and get behind a few things. Do get down in the pews, and now when he gets a little closer, now you attack him. You know, of course, I mean, I even go as far as when we have training. You know, like simulations. I got one guy with a live weapon in the training. He's not participating in the training. He's over there. We're doing our training, but he's not participating just in case I need him, you know. And that happened. It was like a Tuesday or Wednesday. No, it wasn't Wednesday. It had to be a Tuesday or Thursday evening. We're doing our training in the sanctuary, and a knucklehead walked through the door. Guy that was mental walked through the door and was screaming, and it was like 6 o'clock in the evening. And we're all like, are you kidding us? You know, you got like 20 cops in here, all not in uniform. You know, we're all off duty, you know, doing our scenarios, and we're like, are you kidding? It was like those movies where they try and rob a cop bar or something. You know, we're all like, okay, you know, guy that was armed, he went and took care of him. So, I mean, you even got to think about things like that, you know. Whenever you do have a crowd, you still got to have some kind of security. But yeah, trying to get the congregation on board, you might be able to do it here. You know, there's all kinds of different apps, texting mechanisms to where you can, you know, get your congregation on board and come up with policies and procedures, and if you want to share it with them, you can. I don't just have too many, but my ushers do, so. No, you're good.
One of the things that I did when I received my license to carry here in the state of Texas, when it was concealed handguns for license to carry,
Mm-hmm.
was I got that insurance, that Texas Law Shield.
Okay, yeah, Law Shield, yeah.
I mentioned this to the pastor. I think we had a conversation maybe about 3 or 4 months ago. As far as those that do have their licenses to carry to be able to do security, are you aware of any maybe for churches where members that are given permission to carry the church will not assume liability, but there's like insurance that's available to carry in case you have to engage?
No, I don't know about insurance.
I know you mentioned your staff is law enforcement, so it's like it's a different protection.
Yeah, there is, and again, man, this is totally up to pastor. There is Texas House Bill 2065 that allows the pastor to reach out to his congregation and say, you, and you, get your license to carry, and you're going to help me protect this church. That's the Texas law that just came into effect September 2017. There's pros and cons to it. Now, there's liability on the pastor's part if you shoot somebody by accident. You know, you're gung-ho, Miss Smith is back there digging in a purse and drops the offering plate, bang, and you jump up and pow! You know, okay, that's a bad shooting, not justified. You know, pastor's going to answer for that.
Thanks.
Yeah, so, but as far as insurance, I'm sure insurance companies are looking at it because of that law. So I'm sure there's some lawmaker or some, you know, insurance guru that is trying to figure something out for that. How are we going to protect a pastor if he's abiding by a law that was created by the state of Texas? You know, we can't just leave him out to hang. So, you know, insurance companies are in it, churches are in it to make money. To be honest, it's a business. So yeah, insurance companies are in it to make money. So I'm sure somewhere somebody's trying to think, how are we going to make some money on this? Okay, yes, we can give you an insurance policy if you decide to do that.
I'm meeting with the insurance guy on Tuesday. Church Mutual.
So, yes, sir.
So is it your recommendation
recommendation for the preacher to continue preaching regardless of an interruption and not mention it? In our congregation, everybody would know.
Yeah.
But should he continue preaching?
Yeah, I mean, if there's no danger to him or anybody else, yes. You know, if it's just, you know, a protester stands up in that back row or right here, and you got a team that has trained and has a policy on it, yeah, he keeps on preaching because that's his job. He can't worry about what's going on that back pew or what's going on with Mr. and Miss Smith over here bickering at each other while he's preaching. He needs to have the confidence to know that he's got a team that's going to get them out of here so he can keep doing his job. He doesn't need to stop and address it or, you know, be like, while he's preaching, like, man, where's Eric? You know, how come he's not taking care of this? You know, I mean, it should be, they're bickering, they're out. You know, and he keeps rolling with his service. Now, yeah, if somebody jumps up with a gun, yeah, he can't keep preaching, you know. My pastor's not going to have the opportunity to keep preaching. I have a team that's evacuating him out of the building, or out of the sanctuary. You know, that's their sole job, protect him and the family. And that's something I suggest, you know, but that's going into more training, more talking. You know, does Pastor carry a gun on him? Does he have his personal protection officer? That's what they're called, PPOs. They don't have to be a police officer. They could be a security officer that's going through special training, and he sits right there while he's preaching, and that's his job, is to get the pastor out that door if all hell breaks loose in here. But, I mean, that's going into more stuff. Yeah. And then the wife, the pastor's wife, the first lady of the church, kids. I mean, you could just keep going and going and going. But, you know, I'm definitely not saying that the pastor's life is more important than any other congregant. Yeah.
And that's one of the things, Mr. Ross, that we've had private conversations is, you know, and rightfully so. If someone has a spouse here and they have children right across the hallway, their safety for their families first. I don't have that on my mind because I don't have any children here.
Right.
I'm married. So my mentality is engage the threat.
Right. We've talked about that. Yeah, we've had those discussions, but man, that's just real hard, especially if, you know, and I'm not saying all the officers, like I told you earlier, they're not all members of Cornerstone, but they're all vested. But do they bring their spouse to church? We've had those conversations, you know. Do you bring your spouse to the service that you're working? Because are you going to be focused on taking out the bad guy, or are you going to be focused on your wife and trying to protect her, which is absolutely no good. Yeah, we've had those discussions. Yeah, still not resolved because it's just a hard thing to do, you know. Yeah, Tony, you're going to be one of my contractors. I'm going to pay you so much an hour. And yes, I know you're a Christian and you live by faith, but you can't bring your wife to service. Now, can you and her come to a different service? Yeah, but and I'm losing you as a contractor. So, you know, and I've had contractors quit because they wanted to attend service. You know, they wanted to spend time with their wife. And in fact, as God is my witness, I was on pastor's detail, young pup, on his detail when I met my current wife. And she told me, you can't work every Sunday. I want you sitting with me, next to me, listening to the word. Got it. So I told my boss, I was like, hey, you know, and I've been with pastor for years already. Years, you know, man, probably 5 or 6 years on and off though. But now in 2006, we formed the detail, is what it's called. And we trained, and man, we're a solid group, and it was just great. Hey, buddy, my wife wants me to sit with her during service. Yeah, okay, yeah. I was like, great. Went back, and yeah, he said, okay, all right, great. Did that ever happen? Not once. Not once did I sit with her during service. Because
I don't sit with my wife in the service.
it just,
All right,
just doesn't happen.
5 more minutes.
Other questions? Y'all are going to come up with questions, and y'all talk amongst yourself and see what you come up with.
The first things that we should probably do is designate the numbers of the exits and how, like that's door 1, that's 2, right?
Everything at Cornerstone is labeled, numbered, whatever you want to call it. I mean, yeah, somebody on my radio system calls out something, everybody else knows where that person is. A1, A2, C3, door 1, door 12, above door 1, wedge A, I mean, hall A, hall B. I mean, somebody calls something out, everybody on that security team knows where it is happening. To include the ushers now. Before they weren't, but I changed that. You had a question? That's a good question and a hard one to answer. I have a hard time answering that. Somebody always asks that. If you have a uniformed officer, it's real easy. Simple thing is somebody coming in with a backpack. Sir, for you to come in this for safety reasons, I need to look in your backpack. No, you're not looking in my backpack. And he tries to walk around you. Sir, no. To come in here, I need to look in your backpack. You ain't looking in my backpack. Now, if he slaps your hand, it's on. I'm grabbing him and he's going butt first out the door where he came, and you're not coming in. But I'm a cop. I got my badge to protect me, I guess. You as a citizen, yeah, if he slaps your hand, okay, well, he's made the initial contact. But say he doesn't touch you, he's just standing there. No, I'm not, you're not looking in my backpack. You got a uniformed officer, this guy doesn't want me looking in his backpack. Again, mere presence, the guy's probably going to be like, okay. Or, no, officer, you're not looking in my backpack. Okay, well, you're out the door. Police officer could do that. As an agent appointed, and I talked about this real brief, as an agent appointed by the owner of the property, your assignment is to protect the door. That doesn't mean that you go hands-on and put somebody in a chokehold because you're looking at liability. So that's just one of those real hard things. If you don't have a uniformed officer to call upon to help you in that situation, you can't stand there and dance for 10 minutes in the doorway with this clown because he wants to come in. Eventually, you're going to have to get him out. So, how you do it, I mean, it might take some creativity on your point. If he does touch you, hey, Yeah, criminal trespassing, you ask somebody to leave and they don't. But you still can't, physically get them out of the building. It stinks. You have to call a police officer. Police officer shows up. Mr. Officer, I don't want this guy in my building. Officer looks at him. This guy is a representative of the property. You got to leave. I'm not leaving. He's hooked up and gone to jail. Or I'm leaving. I don't want you back on this property. So now the officers, you're not welcome back here at all. So that's what's called a CTW, criminal trespass warning. Next time he comes on the property, he's arrested no matter what. It's just like you got a tenant in your house. You can't just grab him and throw him out your house because he hasn't paid rent. There's all these laws. What's that? Oh, yeah. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
Real quick, I'm going to mention I have a nonprofit that is called Blessed Beds. I just want to mention this real quick. It is, as a police officer or a crime scene investigator and police officer in other jurisdictions, I had the opportunity to go in houses for different things. And I saw a handful of times kids sleeping on the floor, whether it be because the parents didn't have the money, or the guardians, usually the guardians didn't have the money, or their priorities were just jacked up. One case, trash can overflowing with empty beer cans, Miss Smith over there all tatted up, and I go into the kid's room and he's sleeping on a piece of dirty foam, So the wife and I came up with this Blessed Beds organization. It's a 501c3 nonprofit. So I just mentioned that. I'm on Facebook. You can go on there and look at the page. I just delivered 3 beds to a family in need, and I'm going to deliver another bed. So that's what we do. We deliver brand new beds, bed sheets, like character sheets for, like a 7-year-old, cars or G.I. Joe or whatever it is, pillows, blankets, all brand new stuff for these kids that don't have beds. Like I said, it's not the kids' fault that either, mom and dad can't afford it, or, say, Junior's living with grandma now and grandma's on a fixed income. It's not the kids' fault. So we try and help these kids out. So, you can look on Facebook on my page, and, you can see what we do. So, Blessed Beds. Blessed Beds. So, cool.
Thank you.
Good.
I'm gonna give him. We're gonna give him a check from the church for your an offering for the foundation. Thank you for coming,
Yes, sir.
and I really appreciate you taking your time
Yes,
to
absolutely.
do this.
Absolutely.
Okay, your trash, the church has already been cleaned. One thing is I know that it's good to be vigilant